Hello and welcome to my 2018 fall forecast. Now we're going to get right into things. I'm going to start with the forecast this time instead of the data. I noticed that a big percentage of my viewers actually stopped watching the video before I was done showing the data, so I decided that I'd put the forecast first just so it doesn't bore people to death, because some people aren't even interested in the data. So I'm going to save that for the end. If you are interested in it, you can keep watching the video, and if you aren't, you can go ahead and click off once you've seen the forecast. Now I'm going to go ahead and start with my temperature forecast. You can see above average temperatures in portions of the Northwest, California, Washington, Oregon, portions of Montana, and also Idaho. Now this is going to be because of the positive PDO mostly. I think that a positive PDO will be setting up, so this is going to cause a ridge in those portions typically. There could be some troughing and I think even some snow in the mountains of Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Colorado, portions like that. But I do think that there will a lot of the time be above average temperatures. Now there will also be a slightly below average temperature region kind of in the central United States, central east United States. This is what I found on my analogs, and also just the data and model guidance that I've seen has all shown this. So I think that it's really adding up to be very accurate with that. Everything's in agreement on that. Also, I think that there will be a little bit of a ridge in New England. There's going to be a little bit of a high pressure system that tries to set up especially early, and I think that this will make for slightly above average temperatures, but it shouldn't be very noticeable, but it'll certainly affect the pattern. Now for the precipitation forecast, you're going to get slightly below average precipitation in the Northwest and then also the central northern portions of the United States, including Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, kind of that area. Now this is typical in an El Nino. Just because a La Nina would typically bring precipitation to those regions, the El Nino usually brings drier conditions to those areas. Slightly above average precipitation for the Four Corner states. Now that is also just typical with the El Nino, and everything kind of was in agreement of that. Now also you'll notice that there's above average precipitation in the southeast. That's going to be because we're going to get a nor'easter type pattern going here, and that's going to bring thunderstorms to the very southern portions, and then also that'll be south of where the low pressure system tracks just because of the frontal boundaries and everything. But above that you'll have big storms going up the east coast. Now this is also in agreement with my 2014 to 2015 winter analog. I'm also using that for my fall analog, the 2014 fall analog. Now, what that is going to mean is, like I said, nor'easters in the southeast. And some of them will go up the coast, but I think some of them will be sliders, and that's why I'm going to, make it above average precipitation just for the southeast, and then slightly for all the way up. Also, that high pressure system, could influence things a bit that I was mentioning earlier. But 2014 did have these nor'easters tracking up the east coast, so that definitely agrees with what I'm saying. Now here's my fall forecast peak foliage. You can go ahead and take a look at your area. I have the little scale on the left corner that you can look at, but you can go ahead and look at your area, and that's where I think that's the time of the fall that I think you'll have your peak foliage. So go ahead and take a look for a minute. Alright, you could have paused the video too if you needed to take a longer look. Here's my overall forecast. Now this is basically what you would look back at this fall and say about it. I mean, maybe some of this is a little bit more of like a meteorological terminology that you wouldn't use if you're just a average person, but it is what it is. Warmer than average in the Northwest, like I said, and even down into portions of California and stuff. Like I said on my temperature forecast, that's to be expected. Typical early snowstorms for the mountains. Even with the above average temperatures, these mountains are so cold, and these northern portions, I think that you're getting your early snowstorms starting in September all the way through November. And then we'll get into more of the winter pattern, and then we'll see what happens. Above average precipitation for the southwest portions of the Four Corner states. Troughing becomes frequent as the winter pattern develops here in the north central regions. Now, this is especially late. You're going to get your more troughing pattern starting to try to dig, and that'll even bring towards November, I think, below average temperatures for even the eastern United States. But it's going to be warmer in September and stuff, so I think that overall the eastern United States will come out of it average, but the central United States will probably get slightly below average temperatures. Now, perhaps an early snowstorm for Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and you could even extend that into my troughing region a little bit more than that, but I think that is likely with these troughs kind of going over the central United States and heading east. It might pick up some Gulf moisture some of the time and try to pull up I think they're called panhandle cutters or something, or maybe an Appalachian runner or something. But I think that it's possible that we get an early snowstorm for those regions, and I've seen it before. I've been forecasting and paying attention to weather for I think 8 years now. Yeah, since about 2010. So I've seen this a couple times, so it's not impossible. Now, a few nor'easters, and I made sure to mention that is a typical El Nino pattern. So as long as there's an El Nino, you can really bet on this happening. So that whole green region. Then lots of thunderstorms in that red region. That's what I was talking about south of the low pressure system, where you could expect a lot of thunderstorms, especially as that low pressure system is trying to pull in the Gulf moisture. You can expect some, heavy downpour thunderstorms as that moisture is being pulled. And then warmer than normal over New England, like I said. But they will also get kind of the nor'easter stuff as well. All right. Now, if you don't care about the data, you can go ahead and click off the video now, because this is going to get kind of into like my reasons and everything for my forecast. Now, I made sure to make this little slide here, my long range forecast process, just because some people were wondering. It's most important towards the top, working down. So current sea surface temperatures is the most important thing to me, especially when it's not a super long range forecast. Like fall is starting next month and we're halfway through August. So it's really important to look at the current sea surface temperatures, because it's not going to change a whole lot. It's going to be very similar to what it is now. Things will change a little bit, but not too much. Then the ENSO region, that's El Nino and La Nina, just in case you didn't know. We will be getting an El Nino, probably. Other oscillations, that includes PDO, NAO, AO, all those things. So I will go over that a little bit once I show some more slides. Sunspot activity. Now, we do have below average sunspot activity, so that'll kind of make things a little bit colder typically. But yeah, so I have taken that into account. And then my analog years, and then long range models, including CFS and JAMSTEC and other models. So going top is most important, bottom is least important. Now here's a little slide of the current sea surface temperatures, and then I kind of circled the areas of things that stood out to me. Now you can see there's a neutral ENSO right now. There's areas of cold and areas of warm, but if you look at the actual depth of the ocean, which they do have, you can access that, and I have accessed that. There is a lot of warm water underneath the surface, so that's how we know an El Nino is coming, because it's rising. And it's going to start, a map like this in 2 months is going to look a lot warmer. Now, just south of California, you can see that warm area. And also north of there, kind of south of Alaska and off the coast of western Canada. Now, that's where the positive PDO is already. But you can see right under where I wrote PDO trying to go positive, there's a little cold area. Now, that's really the question mark. The PDO is the biggest question mark coming towards the later portion of this year. Is that cold going to expand into those warm areas, or is that warm area going to expand into that cold area? Like, which one's going to be the winner? Because that's going to determine whether we get a positive PDO or a negative. Because right now it's a confused positive. That's the way I would put it. It's a confused positive. With that cold portion, the pattern's going to be very untypical. Now, I would like to take note of that colder portion below Alaska. That kind of usually would lead to troughing, which would lead to ridging kind of over the western United States, and troughing in the middle portions of the United States and eastern portions of the United States, if that cold expands. Now, you would also notice that there's warmer temperatures below that, and that's kind of what's keeping it from, overtaking the whole pattern. If that warmer portion wasn't there and the PDO was a little bit better, I'd be calling for a very cold fall in the eastern United States. But those things are kind of blocking the whole pattern. Also below that, you would notice that there's colder temperatures as well. And that's kind of a positive PDO look with the little bit of cold in the central Pacific. Now, there is warmer temperatures off the eastern United States, and that'll influence New England's temperatures a lot, and I'm calling for, like you guys saw, above average temperatures. So there's that. And then colder temperatures right below Greenland. And then average for the, tropical regions of the Atlantic. And I will be making a tropical storm forecast and hurricane forecast after this. It's a separate video. So that's why I'm not mentioning hurricanes or anything in this forecast video. Now, I want to show you how this compares to my analog years. Basically, everything adds up except the PDO is a little bit different because that's a typical positive PDO. And then you can see that in that red outlined area that I made, you can see that the temperatures are flipped. Where I had warmer temperatures on the current sea surface temperatures, it is colder on my analog years, and then where I had colder, it says warmer. Now, we'll see how that affects everything. I think that that's not one of the bigger important areas, so there's always going to be differences with your analogs and what actually happens. That's kind of the, what makes it difficult, because not every year is the same. You can see neutral and so warmer temperatures off the Atlantic, and then average in the tropical regions, and then colder. The colder is a little bit further south, but I'm not going to be nitpicking about that. And then we can see the Jamstec forecast and how it fits with the current sea surface temperatures. You can see that there's colder temperatures where I had it, warmer temperatures where I had it. PDO trying to go positive, neutral, and so it's a little bit warmer than neutral. I'd say that's a weak Mordecai El Nino, but again, not going to nitpick anything. Average temperatures in the tropical Atlantic, and then everything else adds up. So for my precipitation analog, you can see in the southeast it has above average precipitation going up the east coast, and also drier conditions in the middle north central United States and and the northwest, with that little bit of above average precipitation in the four corner states. You can see this adds up with my forecast a lot. And then here's the 500 millibar geopotential height. This is basically a good way of seeing troughs and ridges in the upper atmosphere. I could have gone 200 millibars, but 500 millibars is where you're going to get the most information. In my analog years, it shows that there's ridging in the western United States and troughing in the central eastern United States. And that kind of adds up with my forecast as well. Anyway, that's going to be it for this forecast, guys. I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave requests for any forecast ideas you have. I am going to start doing monthly forecasts as well, like September forecast, October forecast, November forecast. And that's going to be, right before that month starts. So it's the most accurate. It's as accurate as possible. I want to thank everybody for watching my winter forecast. That's getting so many views. I can't believe it. And I hope this one gets, half as many views as that one's getting. I would be so happy. I want to thank everybody who subscribed also. I think I've gone up hundreds of subscribers since I started making new videos. And the weather community just seems to be a lot more active, and people are a lot more curious than they used to be, which just brings joy to my heart. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.